And who says I can't pick a good movie?
I don't know about all that. We'll have to discuss that. Even this was kind of like, I don't know.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I get it. The Arsene Lupin. I mean, it's based on Arsene Lupin. He's supposed to be like the grandkid of Arsene Lupin. So, but yeah, the art style's great. Art style was great. I thought that was great.
There's some beautiful parts in it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can tell. I mean, it's you can.
Oh, geez, I got all sorts of problems
God.
at my end. Sorry, guys. Yeah, for those of you who don't, major computer problems for old Pops. So the boys will be running a lot more of the show than normal. Plus, I'm not going to pretend to know a whole lot about anime anyway. Hence the reason we brought the expert in, Brandon, the anime guy. Thank you, my brother, for hanging out with us.
Why, hello there, everybody. Hey, Pops. Loki, it's always good to see you. And, of course, first mate Ironcaster. It's good to see y'all.
Good to see you, man. Good to be here. What are all these buttons, Pops? What do I do with all this?
I don't know, man. Just let's just skip some of that. Just go right to chat. Welcome everybody, and get right to the talk conversation. I'm going to try to fix my blue screen. I'm over here. I'm going to try to fix that. So sorry, guys. I'm trying to. Why my computer worked yesterday? Work coming today. I'm like, no, it needs. I'm like, what is happening? So,
Pops is experiencing technical difficulties.
Yes, please stand by.
Oh, fun time is when the computer doesn't want to cooperate in using a backup system.
Blue screen in the sky.
Did anybody else have a hard time finding this? I had to like rent it on Amazon. So you guys sent me a link, and I really do appreciate that. But I couldn't get like 30 seconds in without it stopping and buffering. And I hate that. I can't stand that. So I was like, you know what, screw it. And I looked it up, and I just told like, okay, it's $3. I can rent it on Amazon. So I just rented it and watched it.
Yeah, it was free like a few weeks ago, and like through Amazon Prime. I think it was on Tubi at one point, and then I delayed because I was sick one week. I don't know if that's part of the problem, but I couldn't get that link to work either. But I own a copy because I will say I enjoy the movie, but I will say it's full of all of the anime quirkiness. I don't know. Brandon can kind of clarify that for me a little bit. It has idiosyncrasies of all sorts of different genres, right? So like when I talk about Indian cinema, I'm always like, oh, it's got this and this and this in it. So anime has the same thing with the way it approaches certain close-ups and emotional responses and action sequences and different things that it does. That's pretty normal for anime, but not necessarily normal for everybody else.
You've got a good set of people watching. You got Steven Ransom. Steven Ransom's hanging out. And,
hey, Steven.
Pat S. Pat S is no Taco Bell. Oh no.
Producer son.
No Taco Bell for Ironcaster.
I feel targeted now. Like I almost did stop the Taco Bell, but I didn't. So he's right.
You got a Nosferatu. You got a vampire. You know you got a vampire watching your streams.
I'm always a big fan of having Nos in the house. All sorts of craziness will be ensued, of course.
And Louise, hello, Louise. Louise is so sweet. Have you ever talked to Louise? Anybody out there? Any of y'all ever talked to Louise? She's so awesome.
Hello, Louise.
You just got to get her to say, "There's coffee in that nebula." You've got a whole bunch of people in here. Some great people. Jacob Ironside. It's Pops Brad Pitt. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the many avatars that you people have graced me with. I appreciate this very, very much. This obnoxious Brad Pitt avatar. I appreciate that. Thank you.
It is kind of funny, and it works for you.
Jacob is the author behind the Pop Scroll, which is now out there as well. So I don't have that queued up as an avatar, but we might switch it over if I can get my computer to work. So we'll see.
He has a Pop Skull?
Scroll. Like from the Secret Invasion show, he made a Pop Scroll image.
Oh, I thought you were saying skull, like skull.
Scroll, like scroll.
I don't recognize those scrolls.
No one should.
And yes, I have seen Cowboy Bebop. A lot of the art in this is absolutely wonderful. I guess we'll go ahead and get to the conversation. Pops is having some technical difficulties. I'm not trying to run the show and just, yeah, it's beautiful. I'll tell you that. You can see inspiration everywhere. I love the castle. Castle looked great.
Very
but
absolutely.
I'm not really the person that should be leading this conversation. I think it's this guy up here, him and Ironcaster should be the ones, because they probably have seen this way more than I have. This is the first time I've ever seen any of this.
So I have a little bit of notes and some background information for it to kind of bring up.
Okay.
Just to have just a little bit of kind of background knowledge for you, for you, because for you and for anyone who might not be as aware of Lupin III and the bigger sort of franchise it is.
Oh yeah, because this is huge. This is huge. That's one thing. I did some homework before I watched it. There's movies, there's TV series, there's other stuff from the 30s. It was crazy. I could find the Arsini Lupin stuff easier than I could find this, and I didn't understand why, because there's so much more of this than the original stuff.
To explain that a little bit, Arsène Lupin, the original character, was created in the late 1800s, early 1900s, by a man named Maurice Leblanc, who made a gentleman thief, and so this character was created as sort of the grandson of him. And the thing is, in Japan, that character was technically public domain. So the LeBlanc estate did not give any sort of permissions for Lupin III to be created, which is ironic considering that back in, I think, about 1905, Maurice Leblanc went and created a Lupin story where Sherlock Holmes appeared, and he himself did not get permission to use Sherlock Holmes.
Interesting.
So to kind of bring it forward a little bit, Lupin III here is a very sort of world-striking character whose goal in life is to go steal all the world's treasures. He is not a good guy per se. He's kind of a good guy, but he's sort of on the wrong side of the law. In fact, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I kind of got that. It's more about like if he can do it or not. He doesn't really care about money or anything. It's more of like, can I go in and do this? Sure, I can. I'll even leave a calling card and tell him, hey, guess what? I'm coming. I'm going to come and I'm going to steal your stuff. See if you can stop me.
Hence the gentleman thief aspect of his character. Anyways,
this is an idea you would have also seen in, say, the Pink Panther, in the original one, where you had the thief who I believe he was the gem thief. Did he call himself the Pink Panther was the gem? But anyway, where the thief there likewise told them in advance he was going to come for the treasure, or no, he left a glove. That's right.
It kind of reminded me of the fox in Ocean's 12 and Ocean's 13. The thief, he didn't need the money. He didn't need it. He just did it because he could do it and he wanted to be the best. It's all that mattered to him was being the best thief. He didn't care whether he was able to sell it or get any money out of it. It was just about being the best and being able to do it.
So in Pink Panther, the Phantom was the original thief. And that's what Cagliostro was trying to catch. And then it moves on from there, where there's no longer a Phantom in the subsequent movies. But in the original Pink Panther, the 1964 one, that's what that was. So Lupin does have some of those elements and some of those nods and that kind of thing. I will say this, and again, maybe you guys can disagree, but I think that because this movie is so well regarded, that's probably one of the reasons it's very limited on us being able to find it streaming stuff like that. Maybe Brandon, you would know more about that, or
it more or less goes down to who has the rights. Right now, Discotek Media is the one that they're doing all of the physical media releases for everything Lupin III, or at least the TV series and this movie. And this is one of the few anime features that actually has a full 4K release. And it's the 4K release is absolutely gorgeous.
I I think I've only got a DVD release, so I will have to
Yeah.
definitely upgrade, because this one is, I mean, just from that Miyazaki Studio Ghibli art
Exactly.
is a masterpiece.
Yeah, that's what separates this one from, from pretty much any other part of Lupin, is who directed it. Hayao Miyazaki. He's the one that directed. This was his directorial debut, and you can definitely tell within the art style that it's very much a Miyazaki joint. This has his handiwork all over it, from the art direction to the styling to the character designs. Even though he didn't design the characters, they don't have the what is now known as the anime look. And most of the current looks for how a male character and how a female character is supposed to look doesn't start really coming into play until the 80s, after Fist of the North Star. Then we have a template that pretty much everybody has followed. But prior to that, they had quite a bit of variety. And just looking at some of the character designs here, notice how Lupin looks versus how the standard male anime character looks now. He doesn't have a whole lot in common with them, and the same with the female characters. Prior to the mid '80s, all the female characters had a similar look to the princess here, but that, as I said, it's no longer the template used or the style that's used. So the Lupin series in general, and specifically this movie, it has a very distinct look to it, and it's a lot of fun. And when you talk about it being a Miyazaki movie, there's violence, but there's no real amount of blood or anything like that. And one of the scenes, some squishing happens and you don't see it. So it's very muted in comparison to other anime, especially at that time, how violent some of the anime that was coming out was.
Oh yeah, if you're talking about the squish scene at the end of the movie, I was absolutely expecting like a fountain, like a water fountain of death and sinew, and it was just like done. And I was like, well, that's kind of not what I was expecting, but okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, one of the other things about this movie is, especially when you're talking, this movie sort of sets the template for a lot of his other films. Where you look at the princess here, how she's sort of this innocent kind of template that falls in love with a lot of the male heroes that that you see in a lot of the other films. I mean, Lupin kind of represents that similar sort of traditional hero that you see in a lot of his other characters. You see him in Howl. You see him in the main character from Princess Mononoke.
Yeah. Yeah,
I just wanted to say, and again, I'm sorry to you anime lovers, but I think because the character designs of the male characters were so different and unique and interesting, I like this movie more than I liked some of the more modern anime. So I do apologize for that, but that was part of what I think actually made it more interesting for me, because they had they're not just such distinct characters, they have such distinct designs. Like Jigen is just so interesting. Like it's almost like because there's so little of him and muted in the last half of the film, I'm always wanting more, right? Because Zenigata is just this different sort of Inspector Clouseau sort of feel, but also like not. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but this movie is just paced so well. It has all these elements of just being this great little action. Starts off as like a heist, adventure film, and then it becomes more like just incredible, like little romantic type elements and things like that. It's just a really fun little film. I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah. So again, that's my noob normie take on this film, if that's a good way to explain it.
There is one thing about the character designs that I have started to notice a little more. Typically, if a character is not Japanese, they will make adjustments to them to make them fit in closer to what their actual nationality is. And I want to switch screens here. Let me bring up the actual characters for this, if you would.
And Pops, there's no reason to apologize for liking the old stuff. I'm a huge like old school 80s, 90s manga fan. I love the manga that came out in the 80s and the 90s. I don't like all the stuff like people said I would absolutely love all this new stuff that's coming out. I'm just like, yeah, but stuff like this, it's the art style and it's the way they did things like what you're talking about that really drew me into watching stuff like this in the first place. Like Stephen Ransom says, you get it, you do.
Yeah, and I want to say that it's not as though I've revisited a lot of these things, because I really have them on my to-do list. But for me, I was immediately immersed in this film. I could see this being adapted into a live-action film. I mean, I could physically adapt this film almost like shot for shot, kind of like we talk about 300, and make this incredibly fun PG-13 adventure romp that moves extremely fun and being very, very faithful. Everything he did is beautiful. There's a shot. I don't think I has a frame. If you can get a frame of this shot, but there's one quick 2 seconds or whatever of the chandelier, and that chandelier is so beautifully drawn. It's so immersive. Like we talk about set design and the lack of quality and details, and even a show like Invincible, there's hardly any backgrounds in some of those shots. It's really quite weak. With something like this, and I know that's his style. This was just a lot of fun going into that. So I appreciate the recommend, because on this one I had a good time. Again, it's like a 3 out of 5 star for me, but it's a rewatchable 3. Like there's not much to it. It's a very simplistic little story, but it's all so well done and well executed. I enjoy it.
And that's typically what Miyazaki does. Most of his stories are pretty straightforward, but they hit all the right tempo notes and the right feels at the right time. And that's what's made him such an excellent director over the years. And I apologize if I can have you reshare the screen here.
Oh yeah.
We've got all the characters. So Arsène Lupin III, he's supposed to be French, so he has a little bit of Japanese-ish styling to him, but not much. Whereas Daisuke Jingen, oh yeah, he definitely looks Japanese, and of course Goemon Ishikawa is Japanese too. But even at that, the styling of them is very muted compared to how they're done now. But there is distinction between them, and of course Fujiko Mine, her look is vastly different than.
She looks like a Western redhead.
Yeah, she does look more like a Westerner in this, and even in the show, she definitely looks more Western stylized, just like how Clarice is. They've got that softer look to them, as opposed to the more Japanese styled look that you typically see now. But even with that, with certain shows that do take place outside of Japan, some of the more newer animes, like even like Hellsing Ultimate, you can tell, because most of those characters are European, either British, French, Italian, etc., and they stylistically change them a bit just to match up with that. But the one thing I do want to mention is the Count Lézard de Cagliostro. I watched the 91 English dub of this show, so that way I could hit everything properly, or at least enough to get a feel for it. But I recognized the guy that did the voice for him in the English dub. It's the same guy that did the voice for D in Vampire Hunter D. So this is, if I want to say it's an Ocean dub. That's the company that that was one of them that used to do it, and it's fantastic. The English dub on this is actually really good. And of course, the original Japanese cast, you got Yasu Yamada, Koyusho Kobayashi. He just recently retired, only like a few years ago, from voicing Daisuke Jigen. Just barely. So
the Russian representative, when they go before the UN, when Zenigata is presenting the charges, do you know who the Russian representative of the UN was voiced by?
I don't, but I recognized his voice, and I also recognized the guy that voiced the gardener, because they've done all sorts of stuff.
It's the same gentleman that did the voice for Giuseppe Maillart in Wicked City.
Oh yes, I gotta love the voice.
He's been in a
actors.
lot of stuff. A lot of these guys come back, and you hear these voices, and you're like, okay, I know this guy. This guy did this, or this guy played this part in this movie, or this guy did the voice acting for this, and you start picking up that for a long time, the same people were coming in and out of these animated films and doing the English dub and have very distinct voices that you can't miss. I mean, as soon as he talks and he's like, young sir, and you're like, oh, that's the dude from Wicked City, or oh, that's the crazy old man from Ninja Scroll. Whatever it is, you pick it up, you hear him.
Let me ask a question about Lupin. Because he refers to 10 years ago. So the princess is like 19 now, because she was 9 years old when he had his flashback sequence. It's 10 years ago, so she's 19 now. How old do we think he is? In his mid-20s?
That would put... I think that would put Lupin right at around... Well, if he's... I would say he started his thievery probably late teens.
17 or 18, maybe?
Probably right in that range, so it puts him either very late 20s or very early 30s.
Okay. Because his voice was like exactly... To me, I could close my eyes, and I don't know the actor's name, so one of you guys will hit it. I think, I'm scared to touch the keyboard right now. The lead actor in Ready Player One, the main character, I could close my eyes and hear that kid's voice. But the kid's too young to play Lupin, but at times Lupin seems younger than his character. It's very interesting.
There was sort of an implication with this movie that when Miyazaki was doing this, he was trying to create a Lupin who was sort of kind of towards the end of his career, his criminal career. So he's sort of this kind of he's a criminal who's been around the world and done a lot. And this is one of these few stories where he sort of regrets it. This is like the one heist he was never able to do. And I assume this was the chandelier you were referring to?
Yeah, that looks right.
Yes, my God, it's so beautiful. I cannot believe... Sorry, this is... I know, guys, this is uber pops nerdiness. Again, it would have been made in 78, right? So it comes out in 79. An animated feature film in the 1979. I couldn't believe this, how well this was done. I don't know where this cell is or who owns it. I would want to own that. That's how beautiful that is to me. That's incredible on so many levels. Hand drawn. They hand draw these cells. This is not like, this is not when they're doing computers. This is 79. So I was just like, the intricacies of all of the woodwork in the background and the dimensions and the art on the ceiling. I'm like, this, I paused and was just like, I was soaking this up for a moment. I know this is the uber nerdiness, Brandon, that you may not have the luxury of having to endure me on a Talk Hard night where I get like these weird, quirky things. Yeah, and Loki, you mentioned the castle design, some of the elements on some of the different towers and stuff. It's just a beautifully done project.
It reminds me of Castlevania. It reminds me of the castle in Castlevania. And I wouldn't be surprised if the guys who did that in like Symphony of the Night and when they started really getting intricate detail in the castle in Castlevania hadn't watched this at some point and been like, oh, let's do the Cagliostro. Oh, we'll do that. And completely went in thinking we're going to do a castle like that from this movie.
It makes sense. Because it would have been right at the, just a few years after this came out. So, yeah, it definitely pays an homage to it. So, I do have on here the staff of the movie, the actual creator of the Lupin III character, and everybody else that primarily worked on it. So, the original creator went by the name of Monkey Punch. And as you can see there, he died quite a few years ago. Yeah, but it was his pen name.
The story goes that it was a pen name that was given to him by his editor, and he had figured at the time when he started making Lupin here, oh, this will only last me about 3 months, and then the story will be done, and I can just kind of change the pen name. This was, of course, 1966.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that was a long time ago. But let's see. So he created Lupin III. He also created a few others, but of course Lupin III is his most famous one. But there's the creator. Now let's see, Kazuhiko Kato. And of course,
I'm trying to just clarify. So is he the head animator? Is that what you're saying?
no, he is the creator of Lupin the Third.
So he's the
one
creator
that,
of the character. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, he created the character. He started the manga and all that for it and got it all started. And of course, Miyazaki was the director of it. Shigetsugu Yoshida was the assistant director. The character designer was Yasu Otsuka. And the various art directors, sound directors. That's one thing that I think gets underrated with this maybe a bit, is how good the sound staging is for this, both in the original Japanese and with the 91 dub. Everything worked very well and sounded incredible.
The assistant director there was pretty well known himself because he had created some notable characters and franchises such as Cyborg 009, for example.
Yeah, and he's still alive, but he's getting up there in age. But yeah, a lot of talented people worked on this, and the script was done by Miyazaki, so that explains quite a few of the, as I said, the pacing and the scenery, shots, and everything. If Miyazaki was the one that wrote the script, then that explains everything. And this really was, this being his first movie, really did show off what the man could do, and it worked very well.
Well, he was also familiar with the character of Lupin here because Miyazaki had gone and directed many of the episodes of the original series. So he kind of helped effectively design the character and some of the story beats for them. So he wasn't like he
wasn't
did
unfamiliar.
Authority on it. Yeah.
Yeah, either one of you have any idea how much he made? Pat S is asking if we know how much money Monkey Punch made, over the course of his life for this property.
Probably not as much as he wanted to. Probably in the same boat as what a lot of the comic creators back at that time, the difficulties that they were having. I have no idea. But the more famous ones now, they'll even though they work themselves to death, they'll still make a fairly decent coin. But yeah, he probably didn't make as much as he should have made. But going to your point there, yeah, he directed these first episodes and had other people that worked with him. So yeah, Miyazaki is very familiar with Lupin III and the character created by Monkey Punch.
I will say though that as far as the character of Lupin goes with this film, he's a more muted character because the character is quite the sexual deviant, we'll say.
He's a ladies' man.
Very much so.
The manga, if I'm correct, the manga is a lot more adult. It's adult oriented. Like the pages, when we're talking about the books, the manga books are a lot more adult oriented than any of the series or movies. Correct?
Probably. I haven't looked at any of the manga, so I can't say with certainty, but for the time frame that this came out, it wouldn't surprise me if they did tone things down more instead of like a rated R type show, toned it down to a lesser PG-13 to be able to be shown on TV more for kids at the time.
Yeah, because he was according to the manga, he was kind of like a mix between a thief and a James Bond like character. And as far as the James Bond, you say he was, the good thief. He also liked the ladies. So
yeah,
he had that James Bond aspect.
It's a little reverse Mexican Iron Man.
Yeah, he didn't have to jump out the window.
In fact, if I'll show this off briefly, there's an infamous scene from the opening of it, where he goes to jump into bed and
oh my, he missed the window.
Yeah, booby trap.
It's a booby trap, but it doesn't look like it comes from the Opais.
No. Yeah. Okay.
It looks like it's coming from the side there, but the
no.
insinuation is there, and that is funny. That's hilarious.
And it's something they've apparently referenced a few times because it's happened again.
Oh no.
Now that one definitely is more distinct on where it is coming from.
Poor Mike. I mean, I'm sorry, Lupin. Immediately, what I thought of, I'm thinking of Mike. Poor guy. I wonder if she's married. That's the marriage trap.
Clearly, she's married. She wouldn't be in the room.
Yeah, it's the various aspects of Lupin's personality that you get over the course of the different parts that are out there. But as far as this movie goes, this was the first time that I've sat down and gone through anything for Lupin, and for me, it was a lot of fun, and it was definitely enlightening to see how things were being done back at that time. You know, even though I've seen other stuff that's from a similar age frame, it just does things just a little differently, and yeah, it's a beautiful movie. Easily for me, it's easily a 9.5 out of 10. But then
wow,
again,
that high. That high.
Oh, absolutely. This is one of those films that I could easily watch again and again and just have a lot of fun with it. And I can see where they're going with this and what they're going to be doing further down the line, with all the the TV series and of course the other movies that have come out since, and the team up movies that have happened, like Lupin III versus Detective Conan, or Lupin III and the Cat's Eye. Oh yeah, they're gonna be a lot of fun, and they're going to have a lot of their inspiration and aspects that come from this one. So
it's kind of perfect for that. He's a character who's perfect for that sort of 1960s era where you have a lot of the worlds all kind of connected. In fact, he's partially inspired by James Bond.
Yep.
He's just sort of the flip side of that coin. He's a very selfish character. He's got all these little gadgets. He's got his gang of ambitious ne'er-do-wells that he relies on.
Yeah, his partner in crime, and of course his his sword wielder that he calls in, and his ex-girlfriend that likes to try and mess with him as much as she can.
She was actually created to be a sort of Bond girl. Like that was like something specifically mentioned about her.
I could totally see that too.
In fact, her name, Fujiko Mine, is supposed to be is a boob joke. It's Lovely Summits.
Oh, I didn't even get that. Damn. IRONCASTER.
This is getting deeper and deeper and deeper.
That's what Mim said.
I couldn't get past the booty trap.
Oh yes, and good to have you back on your main computer. It lives.
I'm playing. Let's see what works. I may have actually had to wipe and lose some data on the computer, but you know what? It's okay. It's a first world YouTuber problem here. But let's do this. I'm so excited to have at least been able to keep this going. And I will say, guys, if you've not seen this film, and I wish there was an easy way to tell you to find it free, I did not have any luck like Loki. We did try amongst ourselves to come up with some options. But I can just tell you this, it was definitely worth a watch. I had a good time.
Absolutely. And if you need help finding it, I did find a place, because I didn't want to pay Amazon because I hate Amazon. But I do want to show the 4K release of it, and one of the places that you can get it from here. So got my screen ready for you.
Oh, you guys will just have to keep going. I'm still trying to fix everything else here. So
there we go.
Oh.
There we go.
There it is.
So Right Stuff Anime currently has Lupin III, Castle of Cagliostro, Collector's Edition, 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray. Normally $34.95, on sale for $26.21. And this is one that's fairly readily available. And it has everything. So, the 4K transfer, this is one of those that would, if you've got the 4K setup, it's going to look absolutely gorgeous on your screen. And with this, it has both the English dub, so the original 91 dub, and then the original Japanese. My recommendation, normally I do recommend to try to watch it in Japanese first with the subtitling. But so because of how reasonable the English dub is, watch it with the English dub, but turn on the subtitling. And that way you can see what typically goes into adapting the Japanese script into English. Sometimes they're pretty straightforward about it, and other times they fill in gaps. And that's something that I've noticed more recently, even with older shows. If there's a too big of a gap between what's said in Japanese from one character to another, our tendency as English speakers is to fill in the gaps, and there's a ton of that, especially with a show like Dragon Ball, the original one. There's a ton of that. This seems to have a little bit of it, but it didn't feel overbearing compared to some other shows. So, the age rating 13 plus, yeah, PG. I would call it a PG movie. I wouldn't call it a PG-13 at all. This is a PG movie.
No, it's PG. Yeah,
it's totally safe to watch with family.
Yeah, very easily.
Well, if I was adapting it, I would make it a PG-13. I would get into more of what some of the intent was, even if it didn't quite manufacture itself in the original. I think we could go there. It wouldn't be too risque.
Well, the thing with Lupin as a character, is because so much of it's so very much so a sort of heist of the week character that he lends himself towards with the countless series, that you don't even really need to adapt a specific story or anything. You just kind of glean into it. Like, what is the essence of this character? Well, he's a clever little thief who's going to wear a disguise. He's going to have some gadgets. He's going to have his friends. And then Fujiko may or may not betray them, all the while they're being chased by Inspector Zenigata.
Yeah, exactly. That's the basic setup for the whole thing, and you could create pretty much any type of story you want with that base setup, and it would work.
Like I said, it was just a pretty simple adventure journey. It's like, okay, he pulls a heist. It's counterfeit money. Let's go figure out where it's from. There's a hot girl. Adventure ensues. There you go. I'm good. Yep, a good time.
I think one of my favorite little Lupin heists, for example, they wind up in Mexico or Brazil, where they're trying to steal like all this betting money from the World Cup, and part of the plan is they need to make it look like they're in prison, so they crash a truck into the statue of Jesus in Christ the Redeemer in Rio de Janeiro.
Oh, wow.
And fast forward to the end of the story, they're making off with the statue, and all the money starts like falling out of the bottom of the building, kind of in the bottom of the statue. It's like releasing all over all to the people. So it's like, while they're always like kind of getting away, they maybe manage to get ahead a little bit, but Pops is always on their tail. They're always kind of just slightly ahead.
Just enough to stay out of jail.
Yep.
Oh yes. Yeah, the Lupin series is one that I'm gonna have to. I think I'm gonna try and start setting some time aside for it and just start buzzing through it.
If you do watch any, I would recommend you check out the second series, which is the one Toonami had gone and released. So you would get like a lot of sort of familiar Funimation voice actors. Like, I believe the voice actor for Krillin is the voice of Lupin in it.
Yes.
I thought we'd just look at the trailer a little bit, go over some of the details with folks and some of the things that we've talked about and kind of driven around a little bit. again, just I think just some of the detail and just the. So I use this term a lot when I'm talking about the Batman animated series. It's the cinematic feel of everything, or the cinematic feel that like X-Men animated series doesn't have. Even though I've been doing that and I enjoy that a lot too. Other films, other shows as well. But with this, it's so ahead of its time with its cinematic feel, the lighting, the design elements, just something really really nice.
Unfortunately, though, with sort of being ahead of your time, is that it doesn't tend to lend itself to being a commercial success.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, because apparently this costs somewhere in the ballpark of $500,000 to make, and they managed to pull in, I think, 6.
Yeah, I don't remember this in theaters. I don't remember much talk about it. I don't remember this on like videos or anything like that.
Well,
it's just one of those things where
This wouldn't have
yeah.
come to the States until the 90s, which,
Really?
91
Okay.
dub, it puts it in the early 90s. Prior to that, the only way that anybody would have seen this is if somebody had a fan dub that was being passed around somewhere, which, without the internet makes it a little harder to do. But yeah, there's a lot of the stuff from that time frame that just never made it here unless someone else, all the Robotech getting a hold of it and then restructuring the whole thing to fit the Western audience. So that never happened to this. So not surprising.
This is a great point, by the way. I don't know if we talked about or spun our wheels there a little bit. If you do have access to either one of those services, it will pop back. It literally was free like 2 or 3 weeks ago on at least one of those, if not multiple services. So it just made the rounds. That's all. We just missed our timing. So, but yeah, just some beautiful approaches to shots and different things like that. I think they just did a great job. Yeah, gotta be a princess. Some dark elements I thought were very good, very well done.
Beautifully drawn.
Yeah, lots of detail. And of course all the gadgets and and stuff that him and Jigen make. So
Jigen was very underrated in the last half of the movie. I really wanted a lot more Jigen. Didn't get as much as I would have hoped for. But that's okay.
Well, I mean, yeah. That's one of the unfortunate things is that sort of the supporting characters don't get as much screen time. Although it's like the one who does get the most is Zenigata, who's the one, the inspector who really gets to sort of work with him here for this rare time. Every other time it's, damn it, Lupin, I'm going to get you.
Exactly. Funny to see the cop and the robber have to cooperate in order to save the princess.
Going on, what's good? I didn't quite get his character as much early on. Like, I'm okay. Wait, I'm confused. Like, he's just there. It's like, wait a minute. I'm kind of missing something, and then it kind of fills in a little bit. I will admit that there's like this great moment where he's facing off against all the assassins, and he's like, I think the line in English was, "My blade is thirsty." I don't know if that was the correct translation. Blade is thirsty, and it's like it was so good. It was such a great line.
Well, just as a reminder, this is technically the second movie for this character after a TV series.
Okay.
So it's while I don't think it doesn't show off the supporting cast the best, I think it works as a serviceable introduction to this character, to these people, and it makes you sort of want to know more about them. Like, I want to know more about this samurai who supposedly has a sword who can cut through anything.
Yeah, I mean, literally, my coming away feel right now is I would like to watch more Lupin around this time period. I don't know that I would want to watch something that's more modern. I don't really want to spin my wheels a little bit of what this director had also done with these characters, what the studio also did. That's where my interest would be coming out of this project. Because I thought it was just very well, just everything about it I just really enjoy.
On YouTube, there's a channel that has this movie was successful enough that it warranted and allowed for them to then go and make a second series. That series has gotten an English dub to it, and much of that is also coincidentally available on YouTube. And that will do a good job, I feel, of introducing a lot of people to the character, to the series. That was what I got introduced to it with, and I fell in love with it.
If I remember correctly, part 2 has like 150 some odd episodes. If I remember correctly.
And because it's all fairly heist of the week, there's no like overarching plot of everything, so you can kind of just pick a random episode and go for the most part.
Yeah, there we go. Part 2 had 155 episodes. Originally started in 77, ended in 1980. So yeah, you'd have a lot of episodes to watch and a lot of things to go through with it, and plenty of Lupin.
And because it's sort of set in that sort of kind of 1960s era, you have a lot of sort of worldwide stuff going on. I think at one point they go to like Iraq, where you kind of have some of the big social upheavals going on. You have like some of the leftover funny mustache World War II people around.
Yeah. Very James Bond. I mean, it's just where the James Bond movement was so massive from 1960 forward during those Connery years, and this definitely had some of that. I mean, it's like literally a Thunderball homage ripoff. Take it how you want. Some of that stuff was in here for sure. And just even again, I love pointing this out because I don't know if anyone else gets as nerdy about it as I do. It's like instead of just having generic ninja assassins or something, they have these, metal claw attachments that they wear as well. So it creates something else. It's just something else different and interesting. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes modern cinema, we're just not seeing people just take any risks or anything like that at all. And I just thought that was actually just something really cool.
So why take a risk when you are going to get blamed if it's not successful? See, that's the whole thing. If you just accept the reboot option, then you can blame it all on the fans. You can blame it all on the people that love it. You can blame it all on them. You don't have to take any personal responsibility for the fact that you came up with something and at the end of the day it was shit. You don't get any of the success for that though either. So if it's not shit, if it's really good and people like it, it might be successful. They don't understand that. They don't see that. So we got to have nothing but reboots and retreads and crap like that.
Brandon, sell me on this being, what'd you say, 9 stars, 9.5 stars, like really, really high, top tier for you, top shelf. Why is it? Sell me more on why it's so top shelf.
Well, gorgeous animation, straightforward story. It's Lupin, which for me is a big sell, especially for being an older movie. It has the good flow. It looks good. It doesn't overstay its welcome. The character designs are great. The voice acting's great. And as far as just a complete package of a self-contained movie, yeah, it hits everything that I need for an anime movie. And for the time, it's also just a little longer than what most of them were going. So it's not like it didn't feel rushed, like how some of the movies in the 80s were feeling rushed. But it didn't drag. And I've always liked stories of master spies or master thieves, so this definitely hit all the right notes for me as far as a movie goes. So yeah. For me, yeah, 9.5. It's an A tier movie and an A tier series. And taking just a quick peek, the original runs of Lupin III ended in 85 and didn't come back for another TV series until 2015, and it's had 3 whole sets of seasons after that. So,
okay,
I believe they're like part 6 now, not counting
they're up to
Lupin Zero.
They finished part 6 here about a year or so ago. So even though most of the stuff happening from 85 to 15 were movies, or the manga is still going, which I'd have to check to see for sure, but Lupin has been extremely popular over all these years and continues to be popular. So,
well, just the concept of that adventure of a week thing is just it's always going to do well. Ironcaster, how do you sort of like rank this a little bit? Tell me a little bit on your thoughts on that.
So as someone, I put this at about an 8. I think it's a fantastic film. It just it's more the Miyazaki kind of take on the character, kind of takes a step back with some of the perversion of that the character does have. So in a way, I kind of miss that with the character, but it would be really awkward with the princess here. It's I like a lot of sort of the car chases they have, which this has a solid one at the start.
Oh yeah, the car chase. What's even better is there's an old arcade game based on the chase that was on the Laserdisc, like how oh crap. I can see the games.
Like Dragon's Lair?
Yeah, like Dragon's Lair, the quick time event type stuff, but it has all the animation on Laserdisc. That's an extremely hard one to find from what some peeps on Twitter, I mean X, had pointed out to me. I didn't even know it existed, but now that I know it's out there, it's
Cliffhanger.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
It's called Cliffhanger.
Yep.
All right. Cool.
So it's yeah. Lupin has inspired a lot of things and still inspires today. So I highly recommend it.
The character is really big in Italy, which was one of the few countries that was able to import the character due to the copyright stuff around it, like I was kind of alluding to earlier in the stream. So the character took on a huge Italian influence over there, to the point where I think like they give him like Italian cars as part of his character. But like I said, it's got a beautiful art design. The castle is a character in and of itself. Like you're watching this, and it feels like you're watching like bits and pieces of Castlevania. Like when they're in the clock tower fighting, it's like I'm just waiting for like the flying Medusa heads to come flying out of the walls. The wedding is memorable, where how he kind of comes in and disguises himself as the priest to perform the wedding ceremony and steal the princess away.
Oh yes, yeah, that was quite fun.
Yeah, I mean, I thought all this was fun. All this fun. Loki, where you come down on this film? Where are you kind of putting this?
I'd give it a high 7, and it's a strong 7. There are things I don't know. Coming from the 70s, I expected certain things. And like Brandon mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, the squish, like grape scene at the end of the movie, I absolutely expected like a fountain of blood and sinew to come pouring out of that clock. And that's not what happened. I was like, okay, well, what happened? But apparently they didn't do that. There were some gunfights and some explosions, and you did see some blood. You know, he's got his head wrapped around he's got that wrap around on his head because of a scene where he did get hurt and there's blood. So they weren't afraid to show blood, but it's very muted. It's very limited. And I think some of this, they were trying to play safe. Whereas less than a decade later, and even less than that, you've got Vampire Hunter D, you've got Wicked City, you've got Ninja Scroll, you've got these movies that absolutely positively do not shy away from the violence and the blood. But then again, this is a different genre of anime. The art's there, and you can see the art, and it's similar to what you've seen, and you can tell there's inspiration there that they pick up on later, and their styles that they use. All of this is hand drawn. All the stuff in the 80s was hand drawn. They weren't cheating. They weren't using the computers because you couldn't do that then. So
I think that's in part, though, more so Miyazaki. Miyazaki isn't a director who does a lot of blood and guts and fountains of blood like that. He's
yeah. I'm just saying I didn't expect that. I expected that, and then I didn't see that, and I was like, wow, they didn't. It was something that kind of threw me off a little bit. I'm not critiquing it and saying that was a bad call. I'm saying I didn't expect that. It probably got even a little higher of a score from me because they didn't do that, because that's what I was expecting. I was expecting, oh my God, the clock hand's gonna close on this guy, and it's just gonna be like a shower of blood and bone. They didn't do that. I was like, wow, this is something they didn't do. And at the time, they totally could have, because it wasn't that far off that you had all kinds of stuff. Reading about the manga, there were more adult themes in the manga, but I mean, I don't even think they needed that here. It was good. It was good. What we got. My critiques are all little things. So it's nothing big that jumps out at you. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful, and it gets a very strong 7 because of the beautiful hard work they put into this. It's absolutely phenomenal. There's different styles that I like more than this. So I'll just leave it at that. And I mean, if I just saw it at the time, I probably would give it a 9.5. But I'm not viewing it from a 60s or 70s perspective. I'm viewing it from a perspective now.
So would you say this is a movie you would recommend to others to watch?
Yeah, sure. I even recommended it to the Loki kiddo who's in the other room. I said, "Hey, I'm watching this Lupin anime. You should look it up. It's called The Castle of Cagliostro. It's fun. It's fun. It's not like, crazy. It's not, I probably would have watched it when I was 16. So even though I was watching more hardcore stuff like Ninja Scroll and Wicked City, but I would have watched this. I would have totally watched this and enjoyed it for what it was when I was 16. So strong 7 from me.
With you. Yeah, I'm going to lean more towards. I know I said 3 out of 5. I'm leaning more towards a 7 because it feels so rewatchable for me. I know there's a couple spots I don't know that I can go to the grandkids level yet, but I wouldn't be too afraid to have it on in the room if they're around. You know what I mean? It's like there's nothing like inappropriate. I think that they were going for, and he seems like he's such a good fit because, again, 1979 pops. Battle of the Planets is huge. It's on every day. Just that Ultraman's on every day. Star Blazers is on every day. This feels like this transitionary phase where this is the thing that could have taken off and done really, really well. And they just couldn't get anybody to buy it. They just couldn't get someone to just take it and run. So, yeah, it's kind of a shame. I really am, a little disappointed knowing this was out there this whole time. And I don't remember seeing this at all. I'm sorry. I would be remiss to even try to allude to my college year. I just don't remember it at all. I've had such a good time watching it as though it was the first time I've ever seen it. It's been a blast. All right. What about you guys in chat? What do you guys in chat think? So, Speed Racer, Voltron. Yeah, I didn't mention those. Good job, Pat. Thanks for having me back on that. Yeah.
Now, Voltron's another one of those shows that was an amalgamation of 2 different shows that got completely retooled. So,
yes. Buzz Longo's here. Awesome. Dave Bob. Yeah, I know so many stuff's going on, Dave Bob. Of course, always so many things going on. So,
and it just gets worse and worse. More and more people doing this and more streams. It's always a lot of fun to hop around. Good to see y'all.
Yeah. Yes, it's been great. I really am glad, Brandon, you were here too to kind of help flesh this out a little bit. And obviously, even more so now that I knew I was going to have, didn't know I was going to have crazy tech issues. So that worked out even better. So you guys have really kind of gone through just this massive Lupin franchise and that kind of thing. Because the first film or the first TV project, if you will, was almost 10 years before this, right?
Let's see here.
Early 70s sometime? I read it a week or so ago. I don't know.
1971.
So it's pretty close. I'm in the ballpark. Depends on how big of a ballpark, I guess. I'm in a major league ballpark, not a minor league ballpark. Fair enough. So, but it just goes to show the franchise had been up and running for a while. It wasn't like totally new. So for the folks that are in Japan, some of the folks that you guys mentioned in Europe, obviously Italy was one of the ones. I think you said Ironcaster, right? That was kind of really embraced this film.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like it makes sense. Makes sense. Your Muslim uncle, thank you so much for that generous super chat there. This movie, that arcade game was made from. Yeah, that's awesome, huh? Yeah, the cliffhanger remotely sounds familiar, but I don't remember playing that either. So I don't know if it was. You guys know if stand up cabinets were common or not? I don't know if Pat, you'd remember or not. Cliffhanger was a cabinet game.
Yeah, it was a standard arcade cabinet game. As I said, I never knew that it existed until until one of the people that I follow on Twitter, or what was the artist formerly known as Twitter, which is now known as X.
No, I'm not calling it X yet until they change the URL. I don't know what to do with that. It's just such a weird thing. But
Yeah,
thank you again. You're most welcome. Yeah, it was
It's always
really
going to
cool.
be twatter to me.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I don't understand why you bought a franchise that was known for this concept of communicating through quote tweets, and now you're going to change the whole brand. That's a weird move for me. But yeah, we talked about the Laserdisc game. We talked about it briefly, and I can tell you, I don't remember Cliffhanger, but I Dragon's Lair and stuff like that. That was huge. It was huge. So I assume on YouTube you probably can get clip throughs because everyone else has done stuff like that. So I assume it's something easy to find.
Yeah, it's out there. I'm looking at it now, and there's some people that have got video clips from it. But
oh, there's hand and feet buttons. Wow, that would have been pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yes.
yeah, it's an interesting cabinet, and from what I was told, it's not a. This is one of the more expensive units if you can find still fully operational.
I don't know if I said hey to Matt. Thank you, brother. Thank you all for all your support and hanging out there. That's awesome, brother.
Yeah.
Played it in Florida. All right, well,
Cool.
We had it somewhere. Probably. Let me ask your Muslim uncle. Did you have it at a Showbiz Pizza or was it, like a Chuck E. Cheese type place? Because that's usually where the more state of the art games ended up for some reason. Really kind of strange in hindsight. Everybody's turning around. Now we've gone on to the.
Yeah, that's
Like
Send out
I feel like we're talking about like pushing drugs. Like, hey man, have you you want to do some X? Come on, just you might as well call it. They might as well call the tweets a hit. You want to hit that on next?
Yeah, it's anyway. All right. Well, yeah, I really did enjoy watching the movie again. I am really glad for this recommendation, guys. I really don't know what to say beyond that. It's got all the fun adventure elements you want, spy genre type stuff, fun, likable characters. I wish there was a lot more of some of the secondary characters and less of the detective, but I guess that's just this was a film where they parted them up. That was part of the shtick of this film.
Yeah.
But that's fine. It's okay. Everything made sense. There was nothing weird about it or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, I saw it, and also like in and out. I mean, Loki, gosh, we're in and out like in 90 minutes. Like it was a little over 90 minutes. Isn't that we keep going?
We'll have to get together and do another one of these anime films again.
Oh
sometimes.
yes.
Oh yeah, do another. Yeah, we can do anime again.
If we do another Lupin movie, I would say checking out the most recent one, which is Lupin III versus the Cat's Eye, because that's another 80s series that was very popular for its time, and kind of revived through the movie.
I would alternatively suggest the 2019 film, which is the CG one.
Yeah, I could see that.
It is beautiful. Yeah, here, just pull up a poster for it.
Chris is funny. That opening chase scene. The opening chase scene was a lot of fun. There's a couple of moments that felt very anime to me with some of the facial responses like that. So it didn't quite. But I felt at home with like the anime stereotypes. But this movie ventured away from those tropes and stuff like that very, very quickly, and it felt more like a cinematic animated piece, not the typical anime that I think about now. So,
Did any of you guys see a movie called Gumball Rally? Anybody?
It doesn't sound familiar to me, no.
I'm familiar with the race.
Okay, so Gumball came out before Cannonball. Gumball was like the prototype for Cannonball. That scene at the beginning of this movie where all the cars are falling apart and the wheels are coming off and all that felt so Gumball to me that it's not even funny because they did it. They did crazy shit like that to the cops in Gumball. They did all kinds of stuff. They would set up roadblocks. They'd always outsmart them. It was always a game to outsmart the inspector that was trying to shut down the race. So if any of y'all haven't seen Gumball Rally, check it out. It's one of the better racing movies from the 60s and 70s.
Okay. I haven't watched that one, but it looks okay, considering it's all CGI'd, but it could be a lot worse.
I mean, as far as the character models go, they look like the 2D character designs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are all pretty much on point. I don't see any really major discrepancies or issues with what I'm looking at right now.
Though, if I were to suggest one other anime film to watch, and I think it's one you would appreciate, Loki. In fact, you mentioned it. I would suggest Vampire Hunter D at some point.
Oh yeah.
Which version?
Heck yeah.
Well, the original one.
The original Japanese, the original English dub, or the newer Sentai Works dub?
Well, the original film.
1985, yeah. Yeah, you got to do the 85 film. You got to do the original.
Chris, I've seen Spirited Away. I'm familiar with Miyazaki's work and some of the other films and things like that he's done in that type of era. Ponyo, you've seen that. So some of that stuff I've seen. It was this and Howl's Moving Castle were the two that are on like the watch list, and I hadn't watched those two. So those were the two that I hadn't seen.
Howl's
Moving Castle's good too.
Yeah, that's the other one I haven't seen yet. So
I think we might have to also add that to the list.
It will have to get added to the list at some point, yeah. So I sent you guys a little message about some of the things that are upcoming, at least some of what's rolling around inside this thing I call a brain. We'll see what manifests. But I thought I would try to make Loki happy for getting a couple of his tick-marked suggestions that are off the list, particularly Tombstone coming up here early. In
Yes. I'm your Huckleberry.
Mm-hmm. X was a story. Okay. Angel of Demons, Clamp. Okay.
There's really not that much. There's really not that much like difference in the American like VHS versus what's in the DVD. There's really not that much they removed. I think it was like a thing at the end.
Yeah, the original DVD release just to clean up.
Yeah.
Whereas the Blu-ray release has the original English dub, but it also has a newer Sentai Works dub. I think it was Sentai Works that did it. But anyways, there's two different English dubs of it, along with the original Japanese audio. So yeah, that would be a good one. I'm always down for D. It's been a while since I've seen it, so that would be a.
You heard it here first. Anime guy loves D. He's always down to get some D.
Well, he has to go soon to have dinner, so maybe D is for dinner today. We'll let him off the hook. How's that? So,
yes, D is for dinner.
we got to get this man fed so he can get over to his channel and keep making some great content, folks. Everything will be in the description to catch your links and that kind of thing. Make sure you're connected to Brandon. By the way, thank you again, brother, for doing all that 101 anime stuff. That you probably don't get enough accolades for some of those kinds of things, and I'm one of those passer-throughs doing my thing and trying to learn a little here and there, and I appreciate it. I really do.
Absolutely, and yes, I do need to take off, but let me do just a very quick spiel, 25 seconds. So, this month, it has been decided it is Sci-Fi Month. So next week, we're going to put together the ultimate anime sci-fi watch list. And then this weekend, I'm going to have Dante of Dante's Rant Room, and we're gonna rant about gaming. We're going to rant about sci-fi, and who knows what is going to pop up. And then, of course, tonight is open mic anime chat. So anybody that wishes to come and talk with me about whatever topics, nothing is off limit. With the exception of what ScrewTube will not allow. So, yeah.
Well,
there you go.
Yeah. There you go. Well, thank you, brother. I'm so happy you're able to fit us in and get a little bit of time with us.
Oh
And,
yeah, I appreciate the invite. I love being able to do this stuff. And as I said, this was a first for me seeing this movie, and as I said, I love it, and I'm gonna dive into Lupin and dive into some of the more comedy type shows because I need to laugh a little more. Everybody needs to laugh.
This was like a perfect blend. It was like I said, adventure comedy, just a fun experience. Like it's just a good time. And I know you guys said it as a positive, but I'm kind of disappointed if there's a lot more gratuitous enough in some of the other content with Lupin, because this felt more like the whole family could just watch this adventure spy franchise. You know what I mean?
And that's
It's like
Miyazaki. That's the way he's always been.
Yeah, I just didn't. I mean, it's fine as long as I guess it's all well clear. We all know this one's got boobs or this one's got more blood or whatever the case may be. But I mean, it's a little much. I think for my grandkids are a little young, but not for long.
Yeah.
You know, maybe just that opening sequence again with the booty trap that we all talked about. Maybe we skip that part. Mrs. Pops won't come down on me too hard. We'll see. So,
well, there we go. So I appreciate it, everybody, and I do gotta go finish putting the finishing touches on the soup that I've got in the crock pot that's been going for 6 hours.
You go do your thing, man. You feed at Brandon the Anime Guy, and over on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, the Animated Guy. So it's all there in the description. You can get hooked up with Brandon. Make sure you're connected. Thank you, Chris, for that link. Brandon, again, take care. Talk hard, brother.
Thank you very much. Take care, everybody. And Loki, it's always good to see you. Ironcaster, we'll see you at the end of the month. And Pops, thank you again.
Always good to see you, brother.
Take care.
All right. Anime does great vampires. Brandon is proof. Cool. Very cool. Yeah, I need to do Castlevania. I've watched some of it, but I haven't watched it. I need to watch it because I'm finding that it's one of those things. Because of the strike, I have more time. Because there's nothing, what's new is so irrelevant in so many ways. I'm like, okay, I can just take in something from start to finish. I could take in something in more of its entirety. So I just have binged in order, because that's the other caveat is in order, Breaking Bad. Let me just take in Breaking Bad, right? So it's like, okay, well, I can just take in something like that, like Castlevania. All right, let me get like 3 seasons of Castlevania, knock it out in order. You know what I mean? It's a little more flexible with time right now to do something like that. Now, 20-something years of manga and anime may not be quite, what's it called that you're doing? One Punch?
One Piece.
One Piece. Oh, I'm not up for that. That's way out of my.
Literal 1,000 episodes.
That's insane. I can't even fathom that there is such a franchise that has so much. That's crazy. But
since you mentioned Castlevania real quick, I thought it would show off something that in the last week I picked up that I will #blame Loki for. See, I mentioned last week I was looking at some stuff on Mondo, some vinyl records.
Oh yeah, here we go.
So I got these yesterday in the mail.
Nice.
It's so wicked cool.
Wonderful.
Which is the game songs from the original Castlevania game.
Nice.
I haven't even taken this out yet, and
Simon's Quest. Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
Unfortunately, I only got these 2, but I'm going to have to go back and get 3 in if they have it in stock, Symphony of the Night.
Okay, give me just a second, Pops. I'll be right back.
You're fine. Luis says Netflix is releasing another sequel series, so there's more to come.
Which I believe they are basing on Simon's Quest.
Okay, cool. Best depiction of vampires' powers. Okay, Helsing. Got it.
I thought Steven Ransom was a Twilight guy.
Oh, that's low. See how they'll do you, Steve? See how they do you? But you know what? Steve Ransom is in large part responsible for me sitting through Jaws 3D. So, he deserves a couple blows for a good month. I got to pay him back little by little. Because he put it out there. Next thing you know, Mrs. Pops bid on it. Next thing you know, I sat through that horrible movie yet again. So, yes, beautiful. Ironcaster is beautiful, very much so. And so are the things that he was showing off, just so we're clear. Yes. So, I will say, Ironcaster, I was able to share with one of my grandkids the fact that you are Sharkcaster. And I said, I quite literally have a co-host who we made into like he's kind of like a shark. Do you want to see it? And I showed them this.
Hey, how you doing?
And they thought that was very funny. which I'm, so now it works at all ages. Evidently, it's universal, And we were shopping, and I think, did you buy a shark mask yet?
Not yet. I need to. Like,
So, okay. I stopped cold in my tracks in like a Marshall's or a TJ Maxx kind of place with Mrs. Pops on Friday. And I thought it was a shark head. I thought it was a whole head. Now it turned out it was like a dog bed or a cat bed. So it was like attached to like a cushion. So hence the reason you don't own it, or I would have already shipped it to you, because I was just like, holy cow. Because those places, are really cheap. Those are not places where you're going to spend 20 or 30 bucks. This is like those things are like 10 bucks. You know what I mean? So yeah, you were close.
I'm going to make the effort. The next time we watch a shark movie,
in costume.
The shark hit. I will have something shark.
No.
By the way, I have a beef with Tubi because they waited until August 1st and they put The Shallows on there. The only one that I haven't seen that was kind of on the to-do list. It was like they put it on the freaking Tubi. I'm like, I'm not watching that right now.
Have you heard about the Sharknado re-release?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
All new special effects in over 100 scenes.
Wow. You're going to be going to Sharknado, buddy.
Released in theater for the very first time.
Wow. But you know what? That sounds like fun. I mean, I know that's like ridiculous in some ways, but in some ways I'm like, I just want to go have fun.
Which, by the way, have you guys seen the poster for it?
No. Oh yeah, the Barbie looking. Oh yeah.
That's hysterical. You shared that with us. Yeah, that's what that was. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
Well, I had to find an excuse to bring it up.
Buy your tickets now, Sharknado.
I'll be. Guess who I'm taking to see that?
Oh yeah, you'll be there.
I'll be there. God help me. Please pray for Loki, because this is what I get for being engaged with someone that's like, oh my God, Sharknado. We have to go see it.
Oh my gosh.
So yes, the lady of the house is gonna be like, yeah, we gotta go see it. So Ironcaster.
All right, back to show and tell. Hold on.
Oh,
Metal Gear.
Oh yeah. And it's the green and smoke. It's the green and gray smoke discs. So give me just a second and I'll pull it out. The other one I've got I haven't opened yet, but this one I had to. As soon as I got it, I was like, I gotta see what exactly these look like, and they are absolutely positively beautiful.
Oh,
wow, that is incredible.
Do they have Snake Eater?
Not yet, but I know that Mondo put out a statement saying that with the re-release, because they are releasing all of the games for present day systems, there's a huge re-release coming in. Yes, you're going to be able to get Metal Gear 4. That I've never opened. I've just kept it like that. You're going to get Metal Gear 4 finally on something besides PS3. So, they are coming out with an entire re-release. Mondo's re-releasing the Solid album, and they're going to be coming out with the rest of the albums for each game. So yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait for if you pre-order the Metal Gear Volume 1 collection, you get all the music, I think, as a download. As a special download, depending on where you pre-order it from, PlayStation, Xbox, or PC. And yes, they're all coming to PC for the first time.
I will actually have to pick that up and finally play through those.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're kind of one of my favorite like go-to basically movies when I'm sick, because there's always like someone will always put together like a playlist or like a solid video of just the entirety of Metal Gear Solid, which is perfect. Yeah. Like throw on, you fall asleep to, and then you're like, okay, yeah, we're fighting giant robots, yeah.
There's a rumor that the Twin Snakes is going to be released in Volume 2. That will be absolutely amazing if that's true. Because right now, pretty much the only way you can play that is to emulate it. If you have a copy, you don't want to put it in a Nintendo and play it. You don't. You want to keep that copy and put it away because those are $200-$300 copies now. So pretty much the only way to play Twin Snakes is to emulate it. Everything else you can still kind of get. You can get a copy of Metal Gear Solid 4 for like, $20-$30. There's some other stuff that you can get a hold of. But
let's see. I'll pull it up on Steam real quick just to see what. Let's see. Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, Metal Gear Solid.
Snake Eater is on there.
Let's see, Sons of Liberty. Yep, Snake Eater.
And you get the original MSX, was the MSX releases, and the Nintendo. You get the original NES.
I like how the graphics stay the same. They haven't like gone and like we're gonna do an HD remaster. It's like, no, I like the blocky polygons. Let's leave that.
Yeah.
Hail to Akimi Mara, who came up in here. It's awesome. I haven't seen her, so that's great. There to have her with us. That's awesome. DJ Ronnie G, the NES, terrible media player, crappy 8-bit CPU and all. Oh, all right.
Legendary music.
Oh, the newer Nintendo. Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Well, guys, we made it. Despite all my tech issues and my computer, I don't even know what's left on here now. We will see. I got all sorts of things to download and put everything back, so we'll see what happens. But it's a fun movie. I'm glad. Thank you, Ironcaster, for the recommend. Thank you, Chris Bergia, and others who also jumped on that, piled on that recommendation. I think, Steven, you were also involved with making sure that stayed on the radar screen. And again, special thanks to Brandon for making time and coming and hanging out with us for a little bit. Looking, my brothers. Oh, man, you're on a roll with this whole cold open, powerful shows lately. Some fun stuff. Yeah. What's going on the rest of the week, my friend?
I'm having fun. Tomorrow we're gonna do creator talk, YouTube talk, whatever you want to call it. I guess it depends on what platform you're watching it on. We're gonna have some fun. We're gonna talk about how not to get a brown nose, how not to run around getting a brown nose and then act like you're better than everybody else. Thursday, I have no idea what we're gonna do Thursday. Friday, we will be back with the Rooster Day Bob and the Lady Arwen Avalon as we do the week in review. Those are always fun. I'm having a lot of fun on those. So Friday went from like the week's almost over, let's just get through this and go, to I am very much every Friday looking forward to getting to hang out with Dave, Bob, and Arwen.
It's a fun show to listen to.
Thank you.
Yeah. YouTube Talks Religious. Yeah. I agree. It's been fun stuff. So yeah, thank you to that, brother. And I definitely can tell you're having fun. And I think that is the most important thing, is to try to find your lane, folks, find your voice, modify, never stop tweaking and adjusting stuff. I was listening to someone over the weekend, and it was talking about leveraging your time. It's like trying to find a way to, make it work. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly it. It's the balance. And, Mrs. Pops was asking questions about different things or whatever, and encouraging me to encourage you, the creators, all you guys out there, the creators, and that kind of thing. So,
Having fun.
Yeah.
Sorry. Having fun's important. That's a big thing, guys. If you're not having fun, something's off, and you might need to tweak a little something. If you're not having fun and you're not enjoying what you do,
I can have a day job with a boss and not have fun. I don't need to do YouTube
and make a lot more money than this place.
Yeah, I'm like, what, so yeah. Anyway, Ironcaster, my brother, what's going on?
Just kind of still figuring things out for myself with my own channel. I do need to get my button gear and get back to making some stuff, because I kind of miss it for doing it for myself.
All right. Well, I know you got a lot of shows. You're going to be on with Nick again on Friday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Twig on Saturday.
Yep. Beyond me and got the puppets on for the Cotton Council Saturday.
All right. Sounds good.
Puppets.
Yeah, puppets are rocking and rolling, man. There's all crazy stuff. Yeah, crazy stuff.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Hi.
Okay, here's Ironcaster's link, folks. Make sure you check that out. Make sure you're connected. Make sure you pressure him for some to be or not to be, some shark content, some puppets content. How about puppets talking about sharks? See, I can just meld your world and make your brain melt. There you go.
We could We can make a shark puppet.
Good.
No, we're not doing that.
Shark puppet. Yeah.
Shark puppet. Hashtag shark puppet. Sharkcaster. Need a shark puppet. So on brand. It's so on brand.
Why do you do this to me?
It's on brand. Tomorrow, my comic talk is with Angry Canadian. For those of you who don't know much about Angry Canadian, he is very much a comic book noob. So it is really a blast to kind of get a feel for what works and doesn't work for someone who doesn't have, decades of comic book reading or a lot of experiences, or, maybe they have like a Hollywood perspective of certain characters and things like that. So we talk about a couple things that he likes and dislikes and why. And we do what has become kind of fun. A lot of folks I've gotten a couple messages, and I actually want to really maybe laugh out loud, like, oh, I'm going to do it again then. We go back, and I don't know if Loki, you've seen these, the Golden Age comic book reaction videos, where we literally just go find an old 10 center or something digitally and respond to the horrors and the hysterics of comic books from the 1940s and 50s, because it is nuts. The stuff that they would do, the way they'd use color, dialogue balloons, characters. It's not PC like at all. Like there's just stuff that's out there. So we got another one of those too. So that's great. Yeah, see, chat's gonna turn on you, Ironcaster. Chat's not kind. Chat's they're So yes, so. They want to know. They got a seal puppet, got sharks, got pup. Yeah, let's see. So yeah, we need to got to do it. Just got to do it.
Yeah, the seal's around. Although he never makes it on time to the show. We got a watch from or something, because he only ever makes it just to the very end of the show.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'm also blessed to say I have some great Watcher stories coming up. Eric O'Sullivan will be on this week. Zach's is coming up. I do have scheduled Nick. So yes, 32 Flavors of Nick Weiser will be on with me for doing a comic talk and a Watcher story, I believe. And I'm pretty sure we've locked in Daryl. I know Daryl and I are going to spend some time talking about Stranger Things, because if you haven't done a rewatch of Stranger Things, that's also a nice, fun, palate cleansing, guilty pleasure, easy to binge through, good time. So. And find some of that stuff for your folks. Make sure you don't just spin your wheels on all this negativity and stuff like that. It's just not worth it. Like you were saying, Loki, it's just more about just kind of having fun. Why let every day just get consumed by all this stuff? So
that's right.
Yeah. But folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us, talking hard, doing some fun, silly stuff. Next week, only give you a little tease. Next week. Yes, my, oh my, it will finally be here. Sisu. We will talk Sisu next week, and these boys will have seen it, and holy cow, talk about a ride. So Copa Catania actually confirmed he'll be able to try to squeeze us in. I think he's got a new baby at the house and things like that. Copa has done great review. He's a big fan of it, as I am, so it'll be fun to talk about that. Hero, the Jet Li movie Hero, will be the week after that before we head into the next month of stuff. So yeah, tons of stuff out there for us to talk about. Love your recommendations and suggestions, folks. Thanks so much for hanging out with us and having a good time. And it's always good, and I got to stay on brand, give you some encouragement, be happy, chill a little bit, learn from someone that I learned from. Be blessed. Here's some Bob.
All I do is chill. My life is a thrill, for real.